Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Well, I checked, microphone is working, and today we are going to continue our discussion on communication, right? And it is all about PYQ. So today we are going to complete this quickly because we have 6-7 days, right? We have for the exam, and for that we need to revise everything. We need to complete paper one, and the good thing today we are also going to learn about data interpretation along with mathematic that aptitude. Okay, so today both of the class will be continue. We are not going to complete every day, but from today till your exam will solve at least two table every day from data interpretation and 10 question from mathematical. So there what we'll have the practice every day, so that is good strategy. The other one will just finish like one unit a day. So if we go in that pace, we'll be able to finish all paper one with the revision along with the PYQ. So in our previous class we talked about here about grapevine is what rumor, right? And the CEO of a company issues a circular to his subordinate is vertical communication. That all we have already discussed in our previous class. So today is 21 question number 21. Here are the description that I have already told you in the previous class, and question number 21 is in your screen. You have to answer quickly. I'm not going to wait for the answers now, but even if you know, you can just write quickly in the chat box. So here the question number 21 is in your screen. If you know the answer, write in the chat box quickly. So the Gandhian method of communication is known as what? The Gandhian. Is it technological? No, right? Is it massive or personal or mass line? So we have the answer mass line. And why is it? Because his method of communication, whose the Gandhian method of communication is known as mass line, and that refers to what? Mahatma Gandhi's approach to communication, which aimed to involve and mobilize the masses in the process of social and political change, right? So the concept of mass line is what? Emphasize the importance of grassroots, right? Collective action, inclusive decision making. And Gandhi believed in the power of mass movement and popular support to bring about social transformation. And what is technological? It is incorrect, because Gandhian method of communication does not necessarily exclude the use of technology, right? And the massive is what? It is also incorrect, because the Gandhian method of communication focused more on personal and direct interaction rather than mass communication, right? So this is also our wrong option. We could. And the personal, this is also incorrect, because while the Gandhian method of communication emphasized personal interaction and connection, it is also aimed to what? Mobilize and inspire collective action. So our answer is what? It is mass line, right? Question number 22 is in your screen, right? If you know the answer quickly. Modern mass communication, and now we are talking about modern mass communication. It's a question about mass communication. Has the characteristics of being what? Sporadic, continuous, based on a schedule, not much dependent on technology. If it is modern, then this would be wrong, right? But dependent on the use of media. Tell me the answer if you know, write in the chat box. Meanwhile, I'll explain this to you, right? Today we have to complete 50 questions and then we can just move to our data interpretation. And today data interpretation will be so easy. It's a basic class that what type of questions comes in the exam, come in the exam, and how to solve that, how to identify the question first. So that's gonna be the talk about, and also we'll go through all PYQ data interpretation just to identify the question, right? So that's what we are going to study. So it is about what? So answer is the first thing you have to understand, what is sporadic. So sporadic is something like by its continuous nature rather than being sporadic. So mass communication channels such as television, radio, and the internet operates on regular and consistent basis, so providing information and content to the audience. Next is continuous. This is the correct, because modern mass communication is continuous. You write something, you get the feedback and you get the responses, and that the argument or the talk just follow up, like going on, right? So it is what? Continuous. So first B is where B is in 2 option, 2 we can eliminate immediately, and also sporadic is not there, so we are left with B, C and E. And let's find out what continuous. Why? Because modern mass communication is continuous, meaning that it operates continuously without interruption, like media channel and platform are 24/7, right? 24/7, providing a constant flow of information and entertainment to the audience, and the audience can be anywhere, right? So based on schedule, of course, mass media happens, you have the schedule. What happens? You have some time for the sports, right? The sports, when it is going to start, or your favorite program, and you know the time, like Friday 9 p.m, right? So like that it is. So BC should be there. Where is BC? Together here only, right? And D, not much dependent on. Why? If modern mass communication is there, and that's it's completely wrong, right? So that should not be there in our option, and it seems it's not. And E, dependent on the use. Of course it is. Easy peasy, right? It was easy question for you all, and this is the explanation that you can get it where? In your Google Classroom, right? So these explanations are there in your classes. You can just go and do it. Today I'll post this in your Google Classroom. Remember, you have to attend the mock test, and then you will find all the explanation, right? So question number 23 is in your screen. We are talking about the two statements. Statement 1 says the primary act of communication begins when an individual decides to use what? To use a particular language symbol. So it is talking about primary act of communication begins. Okay, the primary begins how? Individual decides to use particular language or symbol susceptible and to what? Standardized interpretation, okay, resulting in common meaning. So that seems completely what? Right? Obviously. And statement second says meaning is what? Meaning refers to the inner, of course, subjective is there, reactions to the images, interpretation, emotions and feelings. Definitely so it was easy. By reading you can understand that the both statements are correct, right? Answer is also there, and we don't have to explain because it is already in this statement there, right? And question number 24 is in your screen. Tell me what is the answer. Find out the sequence of an effective communication. We have to find the correct sequence. What comes first and what goes next. By who? Cutlip et al. Whoever is there, but you have to find the steps here, right? The sequence starting with where? Tell me the answer if you know. At the end, what happened? Remember, you have to, whenever this kind of sequence come now, you have to remember two things: what comes first, what comes last. That's all. And through that you will understand, there will be option related to it. Only two option, if you, order you remember, you will be able to answer. So like here, what happens in the beginning? Just tell me. Is it happen promise of reward? No, right? That is later. Message clarity, that could be there, right? But what happens? Participatory context or climate of belief. So it is climate of belief, that the first, and the last one you should understand, that is the consistency. So this is through where is C at the end, only in one option you can answer like that. Through the explanation you will understand more about it. We have a particular topic we have discussed in our communication before in the classroom. That was last year question. Anyway, so explanation is there. Kitlip et al. Outline the sequence of element of effective communication, starting with the climate of belief. What does it mean? It means creating an environment of trust. Credibility is crucial for effective communication. So that is our first step, and this involves what? Establishing a climate of belief where the sender and receiver have confidence in each other's integrity and honesty. Second, participatory context. Effective communication involves creating a participatory context where all parties are actively involved in the communication process. So you can just also develop the code CPPPM, right? C, 2P and M, participatory. So you can just CPAPRO. So it will be like, code will be like, or you can just create Clipa Pro Me. So that will be the code if you want to do that. Through the code, if you remember, if you can. And the third sequence is the promise of reward. So to motivate and engage the receiver, effective communication often involves what? Offering a promise of reward. This can be in the form of incentives or benefits or positive outcome, right? B, message clarity. Another, we have the consistency as well. So what was the code? Clipa Pro Mico, right? So we are taking two words in each. So climate is Clipa Pro Mico. So you can just write in the chat box the code that I have just told you. So write in the chat box the code, or I'll just write it for you, right? Starting with what? This might ask Clipa, right? Then we have pro, message me, and what at the end? Co, right? So the code is there, Clipa Pro Mico. So another code is that you can remember. We can just create mnemonic also for that. That mnemonic I'll share at the end of the class. There are so many mnemonics to remember the order that I will send. Anyway, so what we were talking about? Message clarity, right? And the consistency. So these are all the sequence and the effective for effective communication, right? So this is the correct sequence of the elements of effective communication, right? Question number 25, it is the communication function and issue or area of operation. So gatekeeping, persuasion, and entropy and memory. So gatekeeping is what? Is it news? Or definitely not. Is it advertising? No. Advertising could be persuasion, right? Chaos in communication or time binding capacity. So tell me if you know the answer. Write in the chat box quickly. Okay, you want to, fine. Okay, now you will I am not gonna show you the answer. Anyway, tell me if you know the answer. Write in the chat box. But anyway, I'll just explain. Gatekeeping is what? Gatekeeping can be news. You know why? Because we get the news whatever the is required. I mean, through the explanation we'll understand the gatekeeping is something kind of process of what to show to the audience, right? It can be we can just modify the news, not we, but they can, because of the what the audience, what kind of news they like, or they select the topic related to it, they shape it, and also they control the information that is disseminated to the public through news media, right? So through that we can understand that is what news, right? Gatekeeping is news. Gatekeeping is news. So we can just floating. Doesn't work. Anyway, gatekeeping is news. And persuasion comes to what, as I told you, the advertising. So when we see some advertisement, we tend to persuade by them, and we eventually end up buying the thing that we really don't need, right? So anyway, entropy is what? Entropy means is that the measure of disorder or randomness, right, in communication system. It relates to this issue area of operation where communication can become sometime disarranged or chaotic, or ineffective due to the factors such as noise. There must be interference or lack of coherence. So entropy means chaos in communication. And the memory is time binding capacity. So that is our answer. Also, explanation is that gatekeeping was would shape, select, and control the information according to the audience or the public, right? Persuasion, what? When we see the advertisement, we tend to be we tend to buy things that we really don't need. Entropy is the chaos in it. Can be the noise, interference, or coherence, or it can also be like disorganized, chaotic communication. And memory is time binding capacity that refers the function of storing and recalling information over time. It relates to the issue area of operation that focuses on the capacity of communication to bind people across time generation by preserving knowledge, tradition, and cultural heritage, right? So in simple word, it's the past. So then past it comes, it is like time binding, right? And again, question number 25 is it's so easy for you. Color as a means of communication has meaning that mostly emanate from one's own choices or educational background, social status, or culture. So definitely it's culture. Through culture we understand the color, right? What represent what color, or how does it look like. Then we understand. We don't go to straight and in the school and then find about colors, right? We get from our parents or from our society, from our culture. And also it represent not the color but also the associated meaning for it also. So it is culture, right? So correct, the meaning associated with colors largely what stem from cultural influencing. Different cultures attribute various symbolic meanings, right? That's what we talked about, and these interpretation can vary significantly. Well, some says some, like in some country or some culture, red represent love, and in some culture red represent what? The violent, right? So that through the meanings of color are different from different cultures. So for example, in Western culture, here white often associated with purity, right, innocent, right, and weddings. And in some Eastern culture, white is connected to what? Sadness, mourning, funeral. Red can symbolize in Chinese what? Luck and celebration, but it may represent danger or warning in other contexts. The same thing is there, right? So additionally, what happens? Cultural connotations of colors can extend beyond individual interpretations and impact broader communication. For instance, traffic signal universally use red to indicate stop and green to indicate go, regardless of cultural background. However, even in this case, the selection of colors for traffic signal is influenced by what? Cultural association with red danger and green with safety and permission, right? So, was easy, right? Now, human communication involves. What is human communication? Tell me, it will be easy. It is all based on your judgment and how well you know about the how it starts, what we do. So, the option says patterned social interaction. Human communication, does it happen? Patterned social interaction, of course. Human when it comes, like we said, now a man is a social creature, right? So social interaction is there when it comes to human communication, so that should be there. A is where in only two option can be eliminated easily. And second says B, use of abstract meanings only. It cannot be abstract meaning always. It will have the different meanings to the different people, right? Different so that could not be there because it doesn't have only one meaning, but it involves both abstract and concrete meanings. While abstract meaning allow what? To complex and nuanced communication, concrete meaning and a specific reference are important. So that should not be there. We can just see where B is not there, B is there, into we can eliminate that. We are left with this one, right? So it will be conflict oriented action only. This word is, there will be conflict oriented action, but only the word as they have mentioned, so through that it is also incorrect for us. And D, neural activities of the brain. Of course, when we communicate, we have the neural activities that happens inside the brain, right? So that should be there. So A, D and E is also our answer correct. Psychological activity and activities of the brain. So answer says A, D and E, and we can just simply I can explain you with this explanation. Human communication involves pattern social interaction. Why? Because it occurs within the context of social norms, of course, rules and expectations, right? Communication is not just an individual activity, but a process that take place between individual or group in a structured manner, right? Neural activity of brain, it involves what? It is the brain processes and encodes the information or retrieve the memory or coordinate production of and comprehension of language, right? Psychological activities on the other hand is also integral part of the human communication, and this includes what? Process such as perception, cognition, right, emotion, motivation, and what at the end psychological factors influence how individual encode and decode the message. Easy, right? Why abstract meaning is not there? Because human communication involve not only what abstract but also concrete meaning, so that's why it was incorrect. So conflict, because it has the word, remember, only, so that makes the statement. So these small words play an important role to understand the option. Sometime the what option given is correct there, but like I said it has both abstract and concrete, and we tend to think, well, yeah, abstract meaning is there, so you can just answer. You didn't see that it is asking only that creates another statement that concrete is not there, right? So that's why the statement was incorrect. And similarly here, if you can see in option C, it is happening the same, right? So that you have to pay attention while you solve the exam, and that's why we need PYQ to understand the question better. Anyway, so again we have this statement here, statement 1 and 2 are there, and we have to find which one is the correct, or if both are the correct answer. So anyway, read the statement and answer carefully. A two-way communication, okay, they are asking about what? Two-way communication, right? Two-way communication takes place when the encoding decoding are in operation, okay? Two-way hai, that is true. Communication is two-way, sender receiver. And when what happens, take place encoding and decoding are in operation with frequency of two or more individuals. That is absolutely true. There is nothing wrong in the sentence, right? So we can just, okay, one is correct, our first job is done. The second, the communicator here and the communicatee, okay, sender receiver, are related by the communication circuits, and the success of communication depend on the label of reciprocity between them. And that is also correct, because what is effective communication? In the simple, when the communication is completed, when the context is understood by the receiver, right? That is actually the statement here, and because of that, what is happening here? Both the statements are correct. Simple, right? Question number 29 here, the same is given here. If you want to read, you know what you have to do. Anyway, question number 29, identify the correct sequence of the following types of visual. Remember, we are talking about visual communication here, visual, and also we are talking about the sequence. So it begins with what? The first thing you have to understand, okay, you have the eyes, and how will that visual communication will work? You open your eyes, you see the object in front of you, right? Agar before that it was, you could have answered the look also, but here are asking about the visual communication and the sequence. Based on that, we can only, when we open our eyes, we see an object, right? So that should be our first. Where is A first? We see in two options. The second, and we see at the end what happened. We see an object, right? And then we see here it says second is this model, then the maps, right? No, graphs, then maps, and then the photographs. So order is here correct. So object first, then the models, then the graphs, then the maps, and then the photographs. And we have the explanation for it, and I think we need explanation for that. So anyway, object are tangible and physical entities that can be directly observed and interacted with, right? When we open our eyes, we just see the object, and what happens? We observe through our eyes, and they are primary form of visual communication, as they provide concrete and immediate visual information. Second is models. So models are what? Models are representation of simulations of object, system, or concept. They are created to provide a visual understanding or aid in communication. So model can be a physical or a digital, are used to simplify what? Complex ideas. Graphs are also visual, but that represent what? Like there are symbols, lines, axes, display data, relationship, and pattern, right? So that thing is a graph. Through that we get the idea of the relationship between data, how the pattern is, what kind of trend is happening, right? So like the charts we see, and at the end, we have the next is maps. What happens in maps? Maps are also visual representation of geographic location, and featuring colors, and a special relationship, and they provide a way to depict and communicate what spatial means you whatever you see, right, and such as the layout of the landmark, roads, cities, and other feature. At the end we have the photographs capture visual images of real life scene, object, or events using cameras and other images. Anyway, we know that everything. Anyway, question number 30 is in your screen. We are talking about the communication component, and then we have the description, right? So tell me, medium, channel, codes, and content. So you have to answer if you know the answer. So anyway, medium is what? Facts. To write medium, verbal and non-verbal, that'll be like communication, right? It can be, or you can say content information can be verbal, non-verbal. But here let's analyze all this thing. Medium, route by which the message travel, that is channel, right? Easy. B3. And physical means to transmit the message. Physical means that is the medium or can be channel. Quite confusing here, but we'll see. Medium seems physical means to transmit the message. That is true. So A4 is where in only one option, right? So we can see, and we can also through, if you know about the channel, that route by which the message travel. B3 is only in two options. The two you could have eliminated, and that is here. And codes are what? Codes can be verbal and non-verbal. So it is here. And D says content information is what? It is facts. Whatever the concrete evidence or is there in a statement, that is your fact. Whichever has the content information, that could call what? Facts. So here little bit explanation. Medium is what? Medium is refers to the physical method of technology used transmit the message, such as airwaves, cables, and internet connection. And channel is the route by which the message travels, and that represent the route to which the message is conveyed, including various form of communication like face-to-face, telephone, or email. Codes, on the other hand, is like verbal and non-verbal. It can include symbol, gestures, and also the message in text or letter, whatever. And content information is fact, that refers actual message or information being communicated, right? So in communication, meanings refers to a person's. So here talking about communication and talking about meanings. What happens here? We have the option, okay, your notions about the world. Is it about meaning, or internal responses to a message, subsuming messages for suppressions, or external responses only? So the answer says internal responses to a message. When in communication, meanings are the internal responses to a message. And why this is the correct answer? Meanings in communication pertain to the internal cognitive emotional response that individual have when they receive and process a message. What these responses include: the interpretation, understanding, evaluation, emotional reactions, and to the communicated information. And that all this meaning comes from what? Individuals influenced by their knowledge, their experience, their cultural background, and their personal perspective, right? So option 1, notion about the world, is not correct, because meaning in communication do not solely what refer to a person notions about the world, while individual perspective and belief can influence how meanings are interpreted, and the concept of meaning in communication encompasses more than just a personal understanding. Similarly, option 3 is not correct, subsuming messages for suppression. So why we would suppress a meaning, right? So eventually that is wrong. External response only cannot be external, it is also internal, right? Go beyond external responses. So which of the following are true with regard to mass? It should be easy for you. Mass communication is what? Messages are prepared by non-professionals. Can it be? Tell me. Cannot, right? Because when it is about mass communication, you can just take an example of radio show or TV show or some real whatever show is there. Even the print media, your newspaper and all, they are not like, they are all prepared by the professional. So messages are prepared by, so that is correct. B, we have to find where is B. Seems like in one option. B, 2 option. So here, so because A is not there, so our answer should be this. Anyway, we'll just go again. Messages are rapidly disseminated. What does this mean? Is it means that mass communication, what happens is the rapid dissemination message to a wide audience, and with advancement in technology, what happens? It happens that in all the media platforms, messages can be transmitted quickly and efficiently, reaching larger people. So disseminated is the other word of what? Spreading. Rapidly disseminated or quickly transferred to the one place to another, or also it can go live, right? So messages are supposed to be understand. Of course, if whatever the message that the mass media or whatever the show has message to give, it should be understood. So messages are supposed to understood. So that is, media audiences are homogeneous. And what homogeneous means here? It means that is, it is not true. Media audiences are not one, but it can be diverse. One or two, but it can be diverse, right? So diverse and consists of individual with varied demographics, interests, their opinion, their background, their perspective, right? So that is not there. So our answer simply is B, C and D. Here are the explanation. We don't need for that, but if you want, you can access there. Again, here we are talking about two statements. Statement 1 says the disadvantage of interpersonal communication is the availability of immediate feedback. So disadvantage of interpersonal means you're talking to other person, right? If it was intrapersonal, that means you are talking to yourself, is the availability of immediate feedback. So this statement it is not disadvantage, right? It is advantage. So this seems incorrect. And the greatest advantage of mass communication is its delayed feedback. So that is also, this is not advantage, this is disadvantage, right? So if it would have been advantage disadvantage, it would have been correct. So it is easy for you. You can just answer that both are incorrect. Let me see the answer. Both are incorrect. And the same thing is here, that the disadvantage, actually its immediate feedback is generally considered an advantage. Remember the word. And mass communication, not advantage, but it is what? Disadvantage rather than advantage. So that was easy question for you. Question number 34 is in your screen. Correct sequence. Now we are talking about sequence of what? We are talking about information processing in communication. Simple. Communication process is what happens in the beginning. We input a data, and at the end we output the data. So A should be in the first, B should be at the last. Where is A? Here, and B. Easy, right? You could answer with like 10 seconds. And when input happens, then what happens? We enter the data, right? Data entry. Then what happened? Data process. And process ke baad what happened? It stores. And then what happened? It gives the output, right? So it starts with input, and then data entry, then it processes, then it is stored, and then it, what happens? Give you an output, right? So easy. We don't need a lot of things for that. Sorry for that. Anyway, question number 35. Again, it is a medium and the usual vehicle. Simple. Radio uses what? Electromagnetic wave, right? So B3 is where? Newspaper uses what? A rubber plate. They print, no? They put the texture there and they print on the paper, right? We have again, which one? Television all works through satellite. Easy. Or film is like mini pro. You are SA. So a medium that involves capturing and recording visual content using component like mini pro camera. Got it? Easy, right? We also not required too much. Anyway, newspaper, rubber plate, radio, electromagnetic, television, satellite, film, URSA, mini pro. Same, the explanation is there. 36. In communication, metaphor are considered in nature. Okay, it is imprecise. And why imprecise is the correct answer, and why imprecise or non-symbolic or non-reflective is not there? Because in communication, metaphor is imprecise, and metaphor is what? It involves the use of figurative language and comparison to describe or explain something by likening to it something else. Like metaphor often involves abstract meaning, right? Concept, the conceit is there, and the use of symbolic language and the meaning. So it was easy for you. It is imprecise. And why the other are not the precise? The option is incorrect, because metaphor are not considered precise, but it can use what? Symbolic language, comparison, which by their nature introduce some level of ambiguity and hyper and subjectivity. Non-symbolic, this through the name we can understand. If it is a metaphor, it should be symbolic, right? So this is incorrect. Non-reflective, this option is incorrect because it requires a reflection and interpretation. When encountering a metaphor, the listener or reader needs to reflect on the intended meaning and make connection between the literal and figurative aspects of the language used. 37. Homogeneity is what? Homogeneity is what? Of opinions among groups of people is mostly caused by homogenization is like two thing, right? It's not like diverse. So the correct answer should be something homogeneity. We are talking to one to another. Two ways. So it can be interpersonal, because intrapersonal is talking to self. Mass is talking to more than 2 or 3 or through media and all. So these two cannot be. Abstraction is communication and interpersonal in communication. So that is our answer. And why it is the answer? Homogeneity is what? It opinion among groups or people is mostly caused by interpersonal communication. Because when individuals engage in direct communication with each other, they are more likely to share similar opinion, beliefs, values over time, right? And mass communication, on the other hand, is different, does not necessarily lead to homogeneity because of what opinion, as it involves one to many communication, right? And the message can be broadcasted to a large audience. Intrapersonal refers to the self, or you're doing meditation or self reflection or introspection or internal dialogue. Abstraction is something that it can introduce how communication is understood and interpreted. It is not primarily caused by homogeneity. Question number 38. Which of the following are traditional approaches to communication? Traditional approach, machine to machine, is not right. Machine to man, what do you think? Write in the chat box whatever is new. This is also not machine to man. Rhetoric, of course, it happens in traditional approach. What happened? We use these kind of rhetorical sentences to what? Communicate in tradition. It is traditional way. Semiotic, like what? The language of science, symbol, right? And phenomenological is something that like emphasize like some kind of your experience, no, what happened, and the interpretation of communication, and focusing something like on how individual perceives, understand, and make meaning from their communication interaction. So that is, all these three should be our answer, and CT is the answer. The same thing is there that I have told you. Machine to machine is not traditional. It is refers to communication between machines or device. Machine to man is a program but not traditional. It's the new modern one. So anyway, given below are two statements. Again, two statements are there, you have to find. It is talking about personal conversation. Conversation is more effective than broadcast speech. So now they're talking about personal is more effective, of course, than broadcast speak. Suppose even if I'm teaching right now, if I teach face to face, will have, it is more effective than that I'm teaching here, right? Through the internet or through the broadcast. So that is kind of true. And the factor of personalization, we talked about personalization, right, in our teaching aptitude, and the radio a more effective means of communication than newspaper. So personalization makes the radio, right, a more effective means of communication than paper. This is also true. So there are two lists here: types of communication, description. So just check what is easiest word here, like feedback. When feedback happens, tell me. Feedback is communication about communication. No way. Between equals, too great. No. Decoder becomes encoder, right? Then we have the feedback. So that should our correct answer. So we have to see B1 is where. So B1 is only in one option. You could just simply answer. And why? We'll just explain in the phatic is to create. Phatic means what? Communication used primarily for social or relational purpose, such as greeting and maintaining social bonds, right? Anyway, feedback is, of course, decoder becomes encoder. So feedback in communication occurs when the receivers of a message responds or provides a response. Anyway, meta message is communication about communication. Meta message refers to the underlying or implicit message that is conveyed in additional to the explicit content, often influencing the interpretation and understanding of the communication. Did we cross 1 hour? Okay, in 10 minutes we have to finish 9 more questions. So anyway, lateral communication is between equal. Lateral is communication refer to communication that occurs between individual or parties at the same hierarchical level. Remember that, same hierarchical. There are lateral, there are top down, there are bottom down, right? There is formal, there is informal, that we have discussed in communication. Anyway, the science of studying the feedback. Now we're talking about the science of studying what? The feedback of systems in humans, animals, right? Machines is described as. So, science of studying what? The feedback system in humans and animals and machine is described as what? Okay, if it was human, then it would have been something, but also animal and machines. So simple, right? Cybernetics. Cybernetic studies what? Feedback of systems in human, animals and machines. Easy. Feedback science is simple, the study of analysis of feedback process. Experience study is what? It refers to investigation and analysis of individual or collective experience. Message hermeneutic means what? The interpretation of understanding messages or texts. Considering their context, their symbolism, and eventually underlying meaning. Cybernetic is of course study of communication, control and feedback system in all human, animals and machine. Question number 45. It would be easy for you because you are English literature students and you would dissociate label the language as what? It is what? Profusion of science. Ferdinand de Saussure, as you know, is a prominent linguistic, described language as the what? Profusion of science. In his structural approach to language studies, according to Saussure, language is complex, yes, system of science where the meaning of each sign is determined by its relationship to the other science within the system. Question number 43. Which of the following are criteria for public service? So we are talking about the criteria for what? Public service communication, PSC kind of. Anyway, commission is there. Public service communication is what? Criteria in public service communication. Tell me if you know the answer. We'll anyway just move to the options. So A is personal ideas. So criteria public service, when it is public service communication, do you think personal ideas bias will be there? So that should not be there. Ideological slant means that what? Avoiding personal biases and ideological influences. So these two is not there. Personal and biological. We'll see the answer. CD only. Accuracy should be there. Comprehensiveness should be there. And separation of opinion and facts. Nice. Explanation you can access there. Anyway, here question number 44. We are talking about Marshall McLuhan. This is from your previous year 2023 exam. Marshall McLuhan. The following are considered hot media. What is hot media? Tell me if you know the answer. Telephone, television, radio, or cinema or print. Telephone and television is not kind of hot media. Radio is hot, cinema is hot, and print is hot media. And what do you understand by hot media? So it is actually the level of participation involvement required by the audience to engage in particular medium. In telephone, you can only engage with one person. Through television, you don't engage, you just see TV and understand. But with the radio, the engagement is more. With cinema, the engagement is more, and the print is so that where the engagement is more is called hot media. And anyway, we'll see the explanation. Particular medium, high definition and intensity, leaving little room for the audience interpretation and participation. So in television, radio, cinema, print, these three, the audience participation is less. So I misunderstood the question. Hot media. So telephone and television are not considered hot media. Why? Because telephone conversation more personal and interactive, of course, while television can be considered more cool medium, and it is often requires a higher level of audience participation and interpretation. Radio is high level of sensory simulation with its audio content, offering a more immersive and intensive experience for the audience, right? Cinema with its large screen, high quality visual and powerful sounds create an immersive and intense viewing experience. Print, such as newspaper, books, requires a high level of reader engagement and interpretation, right? So that is what. Question number 45. About two statement. Internet itself is a network and also a model of cyberspace relations. That is true. Internet itself is a network. That's true. Also a model for cyberspace relation. Of course, cyberspace means the social networking. If you have the space of cyberspace. So that social network. Simple word. In global, that is true. Global interactive technology. Okay. Aided by the internet, true. Heralded the arrival of the second media age by the end of the 20th century. So when it started, end of the 1991, right? When was the internet invented? Somewhere around 90s. So late 20th century. That is true also. So it seems like both the statements are true. Question number 46. In communication, denotation. Denotation means whatever we denote. It is not belief, it is not by contrast, it is not by dissent, it is description. So dissent, why is not dissent? Because does not relate to dissent, which refers to disagreement or proposition. So disagreement should not be there. The denotation, it's the description, right? So anyway, question number 47. Symbols provide meaning when used in a specific cultural context. So when they talk about symbol, color and other, remember that culture word should be there, and only here is the culture words, right? That is our answer. Explanation is there. These meanings are not inherent to the social, to the symbols themselves, but are assigned and understood within a specific cultural context. So contrasting style. Question number 48. Anyway, the hot medium, again it is talking about hot medium. This is again second, this is from second shift. The first shift they ask about McLuhan, right? About hot media. What are the hot media? Radio, print, and what was the other one? Radio, newspaper, print, cinema also. No, not cinema. Radio, cinema, print. CD, radio, cinema, print. They are the hot media. Non-mechanical component, low audience participation. It envelops what only one census, large amount of, so this should be only one census. That is wrong, right? All the senses are involved when we watch hot media. So let's see the answer. B, C is there, only one census. Why? We'll just see. Hot media typically engages one or a fifth senses of the audiences in a focused manner. The medium provides a high level of sensory information and does not require much active participation and interpretation from the audience. Like low audience participation, hot media typically provide a high level of information detail, leaving little room for the audience participation, right? So in radio we don't get participated, and also in cinema, and at the end in the print, right? So that is our answer. Question number 49 is in the screen. Again, in the initial stages of what? Mass communication. Okay, what happened? Considered as a study of propaganda. Of course, when we talk about mass media, must be about propaganda. So now it has its linguistic component. Is it? Let's see. In terms of course, signs, there are codes and there are language. So both the statement seems correct, and both are the correct one, right? So here the explanation. Last question for this class is here. So 50 number says mass communication. Okay, supplies. Okay, what supplies? An inventory public message. Of course, it involves public message and all allows for the monitoring. Of course, gatekeeping happens in mass communication. That is true. In large scale social setting, okay, in large scale social settings, what happen? Mass media will, okay, what it will enable? Integration of social institution. That is also true. So both the statements are true. Here are the explanations. Thank you so much. We finally completed communication. Today there will be data interpretation, and make sure you should be there, because we are going to like data interpretation simplify. We are going to simplify data interpretation, where you will answer all the question. You think so much data makes you worry or crazy that how you're gonna solve it, but trust me, when there is a lot of data, it's easy to answer. Okay, that we'll talk about in the evening. So for now, bye bye, take care, have a great day, and make sure you attend this mock test in your Google Classroom. So bye bye.